All right. So, Ray, hey, anything, anything new happened this week? So obviously this whole thing is going bonkers. And so I wanted to talk about this here this week because we want to make it relative. Uh, you know what? Let me move this thing out of the way. Well, that's my picture, but we'll have Wendy there. Okay. So we'll talk about COVID and now how to deal with it. So two things. First off, I love this quote. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. Right. So William James said that a coward dies 1,000 deaths, a hero one. And this is one of the ones I live by this. I was telling my daughter about this because at the end of the day, one thing's going to happen through this whole process. And that's how we have to recognize it, because in our minds, right, we know this now, our minds, especially in times of uncertainty, just create all this drama, reference last week's call. So our minds can just make up all this stuff. And again, some of it's real, it's legitimate stuff. But we only need to experience it once. And there's a good chance that a lot of things we imagine are not going to happen. So that's a quote that I really live by. So clearly uncertainty equals stress, and we're in times of uncertainty. And again, I think it's not so much just the virus itself and what it does to people, although that's scary and how quick it changes, but I think it's the economic impact. I mean, none of us, right, since I don't even know when, have been quarantined, right, basically. And so I don't know how it is where you're at, but something on such a massive scale, it's stressful. And I think there's no running away from that. So really what this is about is dealing with the stress of it. And, again, the better you can deal with that, it is an opportunity to practice a lot of what you've been learning though. Okay. So again, I look at it that way. But absolutely there's just stress right now. And so I would suggest that you flip flop and I say this in times of stress anyways, but you flip flop the primary focus here. And what I would start to suggest is that you focus on your immune system as the primary goal here, and not the weight loss. Now, technically they're one and the same, but we're reframing it. And so in reality, this can be a helpful reframe for you. You can practice, so many people I work with, eventually they get to the point and say, you know what, I don't care about the weight loss anymore. This is really about my health. That reframe is very, very powerful. And so when we have this situation that's going on now, I think that obviously there's a lot of benefit of focusing on your immune system. And there's a lot of social support and kind of like cultural programming to get you focused on your immune system. So that's what this is all about. And that's what we'll be talking about tonight. I think that's the more congruent focus at this point in time than weight is. Okay. Although there can be one and the same though, too, because when you strengthen your immune system, the proper way, you will most likely drop some weight as well. So lower expectations. I think that would be the smart move right now. I can tell you, as someone who meditates a lot, that it's like I can go through my day and I can kind of convince myself that I'm fine, I'm okay, and all the rest of it. As soon as I start meditating, as soon as I kind of close this all down, it's like there's so much kind of stuff there. And I don't even watch the news. So it's like, I can't imagine if you're watching news and you're interacting with a lot of people, there's just a lot of stress. And so it's using up energy in the background. Okay. And so I think at times like this, let's call it what it is, right? And so I always like to say there's excuses and there's reasons. So a lot of times we get in the habit of saying, oh, I'm just using excuses so I can eat bad. This is a reason, okay? This is a real reason. This is a legitimate thing. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of unknowns here, and there's a lot of emotions. And so I think it's important to recognize that it's not going to be, for most people, it's going to be hard to like eat perfect or to live perfect with all your health, because there's a lot of tension running in the background. And as we know, all of this excess kind of playing scenarios out in our mind, worrying, getting stressed, it uses up our mental capacity, and it's hard to influence our behaviors as strongly. Okay. And that's just a fact. So, again, if you can be close to perfect, God bless you. Good for you. But I think you're like most people, again, there's a lot of things going on. And so we want to lower the expectations, because sometimes we can put expectations on ourselves that are unrealistic, and we compound the problem, right? So it's like, we already got a challenge here. And so it's like, on top of that, if we don't act perfect, then we can start beating ourselves up and make it even worse. And so I would suggest that you kind of give yourself a little bit of a break, right? Be a little more easy, be a little more patient with yourself. And remember, you guys have access to all the programs. Okay. So you have access to the instant relaxation program in the new platform. You have access to the patience program, okay, which can be really helpful in a situation like this. And so use those. Okay. There's short self-hypnosis sessions and all of those, and they can be a resource for you. And also, by the way, I want to kind of move through this quickly because I want to get to any challenges you're having. So if you're having any challenges, I can't see the chat box right now, but I'll get to that, at the end, like I usually do. But I want this to be about you guys. So whatever specific challenges you're having, if you want some help with that, shoot them over to me. Okay. And I'll help you with that. And so again, ultimately it kind of comes down to self-care, right? It's just crucial right now. Because again, we want to reframe this as really boosting your immune system and using this as an opportunity. Again, I don't know, everyone's got different situations, but I think the one thing we all have in common right now is we're all kind of returning to home base, right? We're all kind of staying at our house a lot. And so we're going to talk about how to utilize that in the best way possible. Okay. And again, a lot of it's going to be through self-care because we want to reduce the stress. It just is a stressful time, period. We're not going to reframe that. We're not going to try and pretend it's not. It is. And let's work on strategies to mitigate that and kind of deal with it. So some unpleasant emotions, right, that might be coming up. Again, what's very helpful in situations that are kind of overwhelming and uncertain is when we can label and identify the emotions. Okay, labeling and identifying unpleasant emotions, literally, it goes away towards making us feel better. Okay, because when things are this big, this big blob kind of chasing us, it feels overwhelming. It's scary. When we can start to identify and put labels on it, it starts to feel a little bit more manageable. Okay, and so I've written just some down here, but what I want you to start to do is as you're going through your day, again, I hope you're meditating. And if you are, you'll feel some stuff coming up. And when you can label it, again, you kind of change it just by labeling it. And so some of the things I'm seeing from people and certainly feeling myself, uncertainty. Some people are bored, right? They're at home and they're just like, they can't leave their house. And if they're extroverts, that's hard for them. Scared. This is a scary time, right? Again, you don't know what's going on, drained. I think that's a big one because again, remember this, when we're thinking a lot or whether we were doing a lot of physical energy, it's all using glucose in our bloodstream, which is another way to say that when we think a lot, we wear ourselves down the same as if we exercise a lot. And so I think a lot of people feel drained right now because there's so much thinking going on. There's so much emotional, trying to think everything. So it's a normal one. Getting angry, right? Again, once we start getting drained, we kind of wear out our executive functions and we become more primal, we become more reactive. Okay, again, it's normal. Irritated, stressed, obviously, exhausted from all of it, frustrated, impatient. So all of these things, and there may be more that you're feeling. But again, once you can label them, it goes a bit, and this is neuroscientifically backed, that once you can label emotions, it goes a good way towards being able to manage that emotion. Okay, because you're kind of giving it some structure and some boundaries to it. And so let's talk about how you want to feel though. Okay, so again, I want to be clear. This isn't about just pretending like you can just change all of this. Okay, what it's about is labeling, God, I feel kind of stressed. There's a lot of uncertainty in the air. How would I like to feel about it? And that's what you have the ability to do. Mm-hmm. And so again, I want you to remind you back to last week when we were talking about how to quiet your mind. Okay. It's completely applicable to what's going on here, but how do you want to feel? Okay. This is your right. You can feel, again, I'm not going to say you're going to feel calm, but the very least you could feel more calm. Okay. Excited. How can I put that on there? Because again, you may have opportunities. Maybe, you got sent home from work for the next 3 weeks. Scary, yes, but it may also be an opportunity for you to do something different that you've been wanting to do. Okay. And that's what this is all about, is really taking control of this. Instead of just being reactive and reflexive, we want to take as much control as we can. Okay. In this situation. And the primary area of control you have is how you're thinking and how you're feeling about stuff. Okay. We'll get more into that in a moment. And so, again, you want to start articulating, how do I want to feel in this situation? And so one way to do that is, again, when we label the negative emotions, well, I feel uncertain. Okay. Well, how would I like to feel? Maybe I'd like to feel calm about that. Right? Certainly we'd like to feel certain, but that might be out of the picture for this one. And so maybe we like to feel calm, at peace with it. Again, hopeful, optimistic, courageous. Again, we always learn through contrast. And that's why I put these two lists up first. You label the unpleasant emotions and then you label how you want to feel. And that gives your brain direction of where to go, okay? Instead of just being reactive with it. So problem-oriented thinking, okay, this is kind of the fundamental shift we want to make is, again, it's very easy to get that way now, right? Because the problem becomes the central focus. And so we're constantly thinking about all the kind of negative stuff, the unpleasant things that are happening. And so energy flows where attention goes. When we're constantly focused on the problem, again, we know what the problem is, right? So it's like, it's the constant mulling over of it. It's constantly, everything's revolving around the problem. Okay. And so we want to be aware of that and shift that. And so, we can think of every horrible outcome and we can do it quick. We can think of 30 horrible outcomes that can happen. We fantasize, we imagine the worst case stuff. And you may find yourself doing this, but it's not serving you and it's not helping you. Again, we tend to think that we have this weird addiction as humans that if we think of every little thing, we'll have this cognitive breakthrough that's going to save us. But what we don't realize is that we spend, 80 hours a week obsessing on the negative thing. And that 80 hours creates all sorts of problems for us. So again, identify the problems, recognize what they are, and flip it over into solutions as possible. And so when I say be a hero, I'm referencing back to that quote, a coward dies 1,000 deaths, a hero one. And so be present. We're going to talk more about how to do that in a moment. A lot of the imagination things we're coming up with aren't going to happen. Okay. So it's not worth it for you to feel all the pain that may never even happen. Let's just deal with what is. Okay. Deal with one death, not the most inspiring thing there, but let's just deal with what's actually happening. And so how to become solution oriented, right? Watch your state when you're thinking of solutions. This is crucial. Okay. Because again, your state is depleted right now, almost guaranteed. And so we want to check it first and say, okay. And I think calm, relaxed, at peace is the states you want to go towards. They're more neutral. Okay. So we're not looking to be like the most, the happiest person in the world. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about taking it to that level. It's about, let's just get ourselves to neutral. Let's just free ourselves of the stress for a few minutes. Let's free ourselves of the anxiety, the overwhelm, and all the rest of it. Let's just get ourselves to neutral. Okay. Let's get ourselves to calm. Be genuine and sincere when you think this way. And then begin asking yourself, what can I do to make the situation better? Not perfect. I don't think there's any perfect right now, but we can certainly make things better. Okay. And that all starts with our mindset and how we're thinking about things. And again, this is the worst case scenario. I always go back to, I'm just blanked on his name. Viktor Frankl, right? The Jewish psychiatrist. Again, this is a guy in a concentration camp who was able to do this. If he can do it in his situation, there's no situation that's off limits. And so it's really about, again, we acknowledge and we accept that there are challenges. So it's not denial thinking. We accept that, but then we say, okay, how do I want it to be? How do I want to respond to this? Okay. And it's a focus on the solution. And the key word I keep saying is how, right? Why gets us in trouble a lot of time? Why is this happening to me? Oh my God, why did this have to, why is this going on? Why is this going to, my job closed down? And we can get ourselves all freaked out with the why questions because we have no control over the whys. We don't know why this has happened. There's a million reasons why. Okay. It's the how. How do I want to respond? How do I want to feel? How can I feel better? Okay. How can I, do better? The how questions are going to bring you closer to the direction you want to go in. Okay. So let's talk about responding to stress, a couple different approaches to this whole thing. The key thing to understand, just as a core understanding, is that our emotions are not pure reactions to the world. They're our own fabricated constructions to it. What I mean is, I'm sitting here confined to my house. And so I can think about the bigger picture, the economy, this virus going around, and I can get nervous, scared, anxious. But where I'm actually at right now is safe in my house. And so I've been in this exact same environment, the actual situation I'm in. And most of the time I feel happy and excited and calm and relaxed and happy to be home. But now all of a sudden it's like I put a different frame around it and I can get myself all worked up. So it's important to understand that there's the external stimulus, there's an interpretation part, and then there's the response to it. And it's this interpretation part where we have the most influence. Okay. You can't change what's going on out in the world. But what you can change is how you're responding to it. All right. So basically when there is stress, we have two response options: the threat response, right? And again, this is where a lot of the news is kind of really triggering us into getting this threat response. It's this old evolutionary fight or flight response or freeze. And it causes blood vessels to constrict, right? Less blood to the brain, less thinking power. Okay. And what we want is the challenge response. Okay. And again, it's a decision, it's an attitude, but this is basically it's responding with a feeling of excitement and energy. That may sound strange, but come on, let's do it. Right. It's kind of like it's being a warrior. Hey, I'm going out, blazing. Okay. We're not going out. Most of us aren't doing that. Like we're going to be fine. But again, it can be a challenging situation financially. It is the same thing. It's understand that financial stress can be the same as actually getting the virus and being in the hospital, right? It can feel the same way to us. So it's important to recognize that we want to approach it with this challenge response. Okay. Let's get excited. Let's get energized. Let's do what we can, right? You kind of face it head on. Don't run away from it. Don't freeze. Don't run away and hide from it. Because that creates more anxiety. Okay. So ideally we would like to have a challenge response here. And so, again, resilient thinking is really what I was talking about earlier, where it's based on the acceptance and mindfulness. What is your situation right now? You're going to find that a lot of times when you're stressed, it's because you're in some imaginary future, thinking about something that might happen. But if you look at right now, most of us are fine. Again, we're safe in our homes. And so it's funny that this environment can, usually triggers us to feel calm and relaxed. But now, again, we might be feeling anxious in the same exact environment. So again, we accept what's wrong and what's challenging, and we're mindful of where we are right now and what we can do to make ourselves feel better. Okay. And so again, we are working on changing our thoughts. So we're not just changing our relationship to them, but we want to understand that this is just like last week. So if you didn't watch last week's lesson, it's so important to me. To me, it's a foundational piece to being able to do everything we're talking about here tonight. It's recognizing you have this chattery mind, that's just, it's like all the stations on your TV, like all 200 stations on your TV, always up there, just chattering away at you. And you realize there's this part of you that's just pure awareness that's separate from these thoughts. Okay. And so we want to recognize that there is a bit of separateness there, and we can be calm and relaxed in that place. Okay. So again, if you haven't watched last week's, please do that one. Self-compassion, be kind to yourself. Because again, at this point here, it's usually the stress that's the biggest challenge right now. And so it's an opportunity to practice self-compassion and being kind to yourself in a stressful situation. That's why I say earlier, lower your expectations. You don't have to be perfect during this. Okay. You've probably got other fish to fry. There's probably other more important things going on right now. Okay. So practice that and be kind to yourself. And now this is a big one, right? So there's doing mode, and this is what we usually get trapped up in when we're trying to get out of the gap between how life is and how we want it to be. Right? So again, maybe our, financial work stuff, it's like, oh man, that's all hit the fan. And so we want it to be different. And that wanting it to be different is the thing that's causing us stress. Okay. And so the alternative is to be the being mode, right? When again, you put your attention on the here and now, and that's always a gift, right? That's why they call it the present. Right. And so right here and now, most of the time is a beautiful place to be, as far as I know, there is no virus. Right? As far as I know, is I got a place to live and food to eat, and people around me that I love. So again, here and now, and I put my energy right here and now, that's usually where you're going to find most of the good stuff happening. Okay. It's when we start going into the future. So imagine future, how we want it to be and how we need it to be. And that's where a lot of the stress is coming from. Okay. So what am I saying to you? Don't think about the future. No, you can think about the future, but if you notice you're getting really upset or stressed out, pay attention to what you're thinking about. Okay. Because stress is like a recipe, and there's a way, you have a way of thinking about things to create stress. Okay. And it's probably habitual. Okay. But now's a great opportunity because it's going to be enhanced. It's going to be more intense for you to recognize that process. What things do you say to yourself that cause you to feel tense and stressed? Do you want to keep saying those things to yourself, right? Could you say something else? Could you just stop talking at all for a little bit? Meditation, okay? So there's different things. And so breathing is another one. Again, we're going to talk about this in a minute, breathing and meditation and relaxation. But breathing specifically, when we exhale, our heart rate goes down. When we breathe in, it goes up. And by having a longer exhalation, we slow our heart rate. We activate our parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, this is key. Because when we get worked up, we literally breathe different. We literally activate a different part of our nervous system. Right? We activate the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight response. Okay. So literally your breathing, that's why I always say it's like the speedometer in your car. It's one of the main gauges that you can focus on to keep yourself as relaxed as possible. And it creates a calming effect, and it boosts your immune system. Okay. Which is what you want. Right? You're realizing how important this is now. Right? This is life or death for some people. So again, keeping yourself calm and relaxed is crucial. You know, it's just that it's acute now. So we can see like having a strong immune system is really important right now. Okay. But it's always important. Okay. So again, this can become an opportunity for you. This whole scenario, this whole situation we're in can be the point where you finally say, that's it. I'm absolutely committing to this way of living. You've been working on this. You've been developing it. And sometimes situations like happen like this and they're big. You say, you know what? That's it. Sometimes you're just scared straight, right? It's like, I can't mess around anymore. I'm going to take my health seriously. Okay. Which brings us to emotional eating. And again, we have to talk about this, not in the weight context. I don't want to talk about in the weight context this week. I want to talk about it in the immune system context. And again, the immune system, one of the main things about immune system, again, there's obviously nourishment, but there's also stress. And so we want to calm ourselves down, and emotional eating is not going to do that for you. I know it's an easy way to do it, but it's not going to do it. So again, I ask you, do you want to use the food like a drug? Now, again, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. So if you didn't watch it or you're new here, go back and watch the food sobriety lesson if you can, and watch the quieting the mind lesson from last week. And so again, I understand this because I feel myself wanting to eat more food, wanting to drink beers at night, because there's a deeper level of stress that's not normally there. Okay. And so it's normal, and I'm not judging you for it. I'm not judging myself for it. Sometimes I give into it, but I don't want to. And the reason I don't want to is not because I don't want to gain weight. It's because if I start using the food to try and deal with my emotions, it's not genuinely dealing with them. So if I have a lot of stress going on, and what I'm doing is using the food to distract me from that stress, I'm never dealing with the stress. And the stress keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay. And I need to eat more food to kind of keep my mind off of it. And then I feel bad about how I ate and I know I'm not dealing with it. Then the stress gets bigger. Okay. So again, my eating has been perfect, but I have other strategies that I'm using. And it comes from the idea that I don't want to use food to deal with my emotions. And so when there's peak kind of intense emotions like right now, I don't want to rely on the food. I don't. I want to rely on legitimate, genuine sources. And so I know when the stress ramps up and you have a change of schedule for a lot of us, right? All of a sudden it's like you're home a lot more. It's a new schedule, and it's the perfect recipe to overeat a lot and emotionally eat. Okay. Now, again, I don't want you to go at it like, oh, I don't want to gain weight. I can't do this. I want you to look at it like I'm not dealing with the actual problem. And I think that'll help a lot more of you than just thinking like, oh, I shouldn't do that. Okay. It's not dealing with it. And so you want to ask yourself the question, what are some other ways you can relieve the pain or create pleasure in this situation? This is the question. This is the question. Again, it's going to help you now because it's acute, right? It's just this new intense thing, and you're going to be face to face with it, but it's going to be a problem that you've probably been dealing with for a long time. And so it's an opportunity, this whole situation, to say, okay, how can I deal with some of the deeper emotional stuff going on? How can I deal with the stress, the anxiety, the worry, the fear? Okay. What are some other ways I can do it? And again, what other rewards or strategies can you use instead of the food? Now, again, these are examples I like to use, but it's limitless. It depends on you. It's each person. What are things that calm you down, right? That aren't food, right? What are hobbies that you've forgotten about that, when you do them, you kind of get in the flow state and you actually feel good. Okay. Because this is genuine emotional nourishment. You know what I mean? Like when you actually relieve the stress. So for me, it's meditation's a big part of it, And again, the meditation's not as enjoyable as it was, because now it's like I can feel the coronavirus related thoughts grabbing my attention constantly. So my meditations are not as smooth sailing as they were, but I'm coming face to face with those fears, with those anxieties, with those tensions and stresses. And I am relaxing in the face of them. And it's just like the classic, like facing the monster or the bully in the movie, and it's like, I'm no longer scared of them. I don't like them. I'd like to be more calm and relaxed and just things be back to normal, but they're not. And so this is, in my opinion, my second best thing. And so I face them, and so what I mean by that is I meditate and I have these thoughts, I have these ideas, I play these scenarios pop in my head. I feel myself get intense. I relax my body, I quiet my mind, I let the thought go. And I just keep practicing that. Okay. So that's my strategy. But for you, again, it might be doing some dancing. It might be doing art. It might be reading. It could be any number of things. Okay. But it doesn't have to be food, because the food is just a temporary distraction most of the time. okay, when it's emotional eating, and it's going to prolong the problem. Okay, it's not helping you resolve it. And then again, ultimately, once you take a little bit of time, and we're talking like 5-10 minutes of just kind of brainstorming some different things you could do, then you want to ask yourself, how can I remind myself of these new solutions, right? Your old solutions are habit. The food is just an old habit. So that's going to be natural. It's going to seem like the first thing you think of. So you need to put some reminders up for you if it's something new, right? If it's art, take your art book and your pencils or pens or paints or whatever art you do and put it in a conspicuous spot. Leave it on the kitchen table, right? Put it by the sofa. Put it somewhere you can see it. If it's reading, put the book out. Okay. So whatever solution you have, make them obvious. Okay. So that you're reminded. Okay, so let's talk about strengthening your immune system. You already know what I'm going to say, but you're farther ahead than most people at this point, okay? Because people are talking about the immune system. It's key. So water is crucial, right? Again, keeping yourself hydrated. It helps keep your body more comfortable, helps you think more clearly, which is crucial, at this point here. Sleep, right? Get as much sleep as you can. Now, again, if your job situation has changed, if all of a sudden you're home, utilize it and sleep. Go to sleep. Be proactive. Be intentional. It's very easy. The uncertainty is one of the trickiest things because the uncertainty says, well, I don't know how long this is going to go on. And so I'm just going to be reactive until it's over. And reactive is, just sitting there eating and watching TV the whole time, surfing on the web, right? And all of a sudden, 7 weeks have gone by, so we got to be careful of that. Be intentional. Some of that stuff is fine, again, but we want to keep some of the intentional habits, and you may have more time at home. It's the perfect situation to do this stuff, to double down on it. You've got the immune system stuff, that'd be great. And then you've got maybe have some extra time. Okay. So there's water and there's sleep, nourishment. Again, it's crucial. The more good stuff we put in our bodies, the less room there is for the bad stuff, right? It's that simple. The more we nourish our body, the stronger our immune system gets. Okay. So again, whole plant-based foods, the more that you can get into your body, the better. And again, I'll be doing the meal planning. We'll do that next week and we'll get back into it. But again, you've seen the sheets there, whole plant-based foods, right? As much of that as you can put in your body, the better. All right. Meditation, relaxation, and breathing. Again, all three of these, you can do all three of these at once, really. 5 minutes is great. And it's just close and just let it all go. Okay. If you do this, and if you've been doing it, again, I think what you'll notice is there's more tension going on there. Right. And so you gotta really double down on this and just let it go. So if you haven't done it yet, now is the time to do it. Okay. It's really the perfect time to do it. Get into this and get it going. Walking and exercising, right? We can still go outside. And so go for a walk. Sometimes it's funny. I know like the walk has changed, right? Because now I'm stuck at home and I'm, supposed to be inside all the time or at home all the time. So now going outside, it seems different. Okay. So we want to utilize what's good, about this whole situation, and that can be one of them. Gratitude, again, this may sound strange, but gratitude to me, like, again, what my wife say, she saw someone said, this is a challenge for sure, economically and physically for a lot of people. But it's like, World War II, they were called to the front lines, of Germany. We're called to the front lines of our couch, right? So in the big scheme of things, of how, what horrible things can happen in the world at this point, you know what I mean? Like, okay, you know what I mean? Most of us, we have a place to live and, options and stuff. And so again, even in a situation like this, when you could practice gratitude, it just makes you more resilient. You become untouchable. And again, if Viktor Frankl can do it in a concentration camp, we can do it. Okay. And I don't say that glibly. I'm saying it very sincerely, that practicing gratitude. I mean, you're either practicing it or you're not, right? Now's the time to practice gratitude. And I could list 1,000 things I'm grateful for right now, with all this stuff going on. Okay. And it helps me feel better. And then personal development, again, it becomes an opportunity that if you have some free time, if you are quarantined and now you can't go to work, use it to develop yourself. It just makes you feel better. Okay. Use the time more wisely. Okay. Because the world keeps spinning, this is going to pass. And once it passes and we come out of it, how are you going to wish you had spent it? You know what I mean? Don't let that time close with regret. Right? You don't want that. So do what you can to make the most out of this. Not be perfect. It's not about being perfect, but it is not about also just checking out until this is over. Okay. You can't let that happen. It's too important. And we don't know how long it's going to go on for. Okay. So you got to meet it like a warrior, you know, like a hero. Let's face it, face on. You don't have to be perfect, but be intentional. How do you want to spend your time here? What do you want for yourself? Okay. And be intentional about it, and be strong, and be firm with yourself while being flexible again, and being compassionate. But be clear about what you want to do. Don't let this define you. Okay. Don't just be reactive. Don't be reflexive. Be intentional about it. Okay. So, all right. So, if you have any questions, there we go. Let me see here. Let me get the, you know, I think you know this, but my computer goes bonkers when I do this. Let me see if I gotta find the chat box. Okay, I guess I closed it. Oh, there we go. Oh my goodness. All right. All right. So I can see it's Wendy. Yep. Wendy and Jill, I think they might have taken off because I don't think they could get on here, right? Oh, there's Wendy's iPhone. All right, Wendy. I hope you can hear this. I apologize for your technical issues. All right. So Tamara says, I understand that people are feeling fearful at the moment and that is affecting their behavior. It still upsets me, though, to see how people are behaving selfishly, grabbing toilet paper from disabled and elderly, and abusing people who are serving them, health workers and staff at supermarkets. Yeah, for sure. Right. I mean, I think so. So that's a great point. Okay. And this is what I'm saying is, you know, when situations like this happen, we're seeing all sorts of stuff kind of out of the norm. And we're seeing, you know, obviously there's going to be people doing nice things and selfless things, and there's also going to be people doing selfish things, you know. But it's up to us to influence our focus. Okay, let's keep it focused on the positive stuff and what we can do. You know, there's always going to be selfish people doing, you know, rude, cruel things, right? It's just a part of life. And so again, we accept it. And how do we want to feel about it? You know what I mean? Because getting upset, getting stressed, getting frustrated, again, it comes in many forms, and we can rationalize a lot of them. You know what I mean? Like for that, for example, someone, you know, stealing toilet paper from an elderly person, right? It's like, come on. So it's like, it's rational. It makes sense to be upset by that. But if we get upset about it, we're only experiencing that for ourselves, right? We're not saving that old lady and her toilet paper. You know what I mean? Like, we're not telling that person and teaching them a lesson, let them know they're wrong. We're just experiencing the stress and the frustration. Okay. So we got to let that go. We got to let it go, you know, as much as possible. You know, let me ask you, you know, Wendy too, just so you know here, if you ever have a question, you can put like the little hand thing up. And so you can talk to me one-on-one too, if you want here. So feel free to do that. If you got a question, you can put your hand up or write in the chat box. It's up to you. Pat says, Tamara, I agree, but on the bright side, most people tend to be helpful and understanding. Yeah, exactly. Right. Again, there's always going to be both. There's always both. The world's good and bad. Everything is good and bad. And it's up to us how we focus on it, which one becomes more real. Okay. Jolene says, I love that you're talking about immunity. It seems like the things flying off the shelves at the grocery store, the prepackaged or canned goods. I found myself reaching for a few of those items myself. I haven't eaten that stuff in months. Yeah, totally. Right. We just become reactive. I saw the exact same thing, you know, especially like this thing here. It's so clearly about our health and our immunity. And so you think like that would be like, okay, I'm going to get the good stuff. But again, we're just creatures of habit or creatures of routine. So don't blame yourself for that. When we get fearful, we revert back to old habits, right? We have our conscious executive functioning mind, and then we have our unconscious mind. And so the conscious mind is like a muscle. It gets worn out. And once that gets worn out, we just revert back to our old behaviors. So don't even feel bad. I did the same thing. I went and stocked up like $500 worth of food, and I still bought like Cocoa Pebbles because we eat them on the weekends. So again, I don't want you to stack on top of yourself with judging, okay, yourself, because again, when we're stressed, people act different, and we should know better, and we know better, and we shouldn't do it and all the rest of it, but we do. Okay. And so I'm telling you, there's a fine line there. The beating yourself up does not change behavior. It just makes you feel worse and causes you to check out a lot of times with the bad behavior. So just accept it. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect here. If you can get around 70, 80%, you know, of where you want to be, great. Okay. This isn't about being perfect. When he says, I started to stick to a sleep schedule rather than nap all day. I realized there's a lot to do at home that can still be good and fun. Yeah. Super, super, Wendy. That's super, super important, by the way. So do you want to talk for a second? I don't know if you have your thing. Okay.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
great. So what's your sleep schedule? Tell me a little bit about that. How's that been?
Uh, oh, well, last night I thought, oh, I'll sleep in. It's no big deal. I can sleep
Mhm.
till whenever. And I realized it's much better when I get up early and I start the day and the day
Yeah.
begins.
Yes.
And there's really a schedule rather than just a mishmash kind of, oh, whatever happens, happens.
Thank you so much for saying that. I didn't write this. I should have said this. Sticking to routines. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Perfect. That's what I'm trying to say. It's the perfect opportunity in a sense for you. And so if you haven't gone through it yet, the first 5 pounds goes through it really quickly. And then there's the holistic health plan, which goes through it in more detail, but it talks about sleep, and it talks about the other 8 habits, but it's the perfect opportunity to get yourself to practice those. And
Yes.
absolutely create some structure, because I tell you, I know the exact same thing. Now my kids are home. Right. And so it's like, it feels like a summer vacation. I said, listen, it's not vacation. We're still getting up early. You know what I mean? And we're
Bingo.
working in the morning, right? Because you got to keep our minds work by routine, and so it's like, if all of a sudden we're like, whenever I wake up, whatever, blah, blah. Next thing you know, it's 9 o'clock at night. And you're watching
Mm-hmm.
TV all day
Mm-hmm.
long, right? Around the computer all day long. So
Yes.
I think that's
Yeah.
crucial. I think you're right. Are you scheduled? Is like your work schedule different now because of this whole thing?
There everything's been canceled. So
Right.
I have nothing. So I'm trying to sort of I realize I have things to do at home and
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do them. I'm
Ah,
sort of I'm trying to procrastinate them
mm-hmm.
and I just need to really plan them or I
Yes.
won't do them.
Yeah. 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 That's so
Uh,
true. Right. How's that
so a
been?
schedule will help me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and today what I did is I went outside and that was so incredibly helpful
Right.
also.
It's funny you say that, right? It's funny because everything, like, outside's outside, but all of a sudden now it's different. Do you know what I mean? And for
Oh,
you, like, and for me, right, it's better. It's
oh yeah.
like I've never
Oh
been
yeah.
outside before. Like, it's funny.
No, we're on a lockdown. San Francisco's in a lockdown. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
You're in San
it's
Francisco, right?
I mean
Yeah.
people are, standing far from each other and
Right.
it's an interesting feeling,
Sure.
but just walking on the beach and just being in nature,
Right.
I just felt good
Yeah. That's super. That's
to,
super.
you know,
Well, keep an
be
eye.
there.
I'm going to put some stuff. I'm building up the site. You're kind of new here, but we just started this platform where you're in there now. But
Hmm.
I've got, we've been going at this for a while. And so there's a lot of lessons. And I'm going to put a couple lessons that are absolutely relevant to right now. But one of them is the miracle morning routine. And that's a lesson we did a little while ago. But that's exactly, I think, what you're talking about, because what we want to do, and this is key too, is I wouldn't overschedule, and so what
Mm,
I'm saying is I would focus on, again, it's different for each
yes.
person, but maybe the first hour, 2, 3 hours in the morning, you know what I mean? Like, you really try and give all of it there. Because there's just, again, if you think your prefrontal cortex is like a muscle, and all of this stuff going on is using it up. It's kind of like if you were hiking all day long, right? That's going to use up energy in your body. It's the same thing with your mind. It's literally uses up glucose in your body. And so we think like, oh, maybe I'll have the day off, I'm going to work the way I normally do. You probably are not, because this stuff is wearing at us. And so we want to shrink
That's
it.
true. That's
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
it's really wearing out. So if you can get it down to, an hour, even, it depends. You start where you're at. Everyone's at different spots,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it's exactly what you're saying, where you have that structure in the beginning, and it kind of affects everything else. But you have the structure where you're putting your focus, and it starts the day. And when you have your start of the day like that, it affects when you go to bed at night. And then whatever happens after that will be influenced by that. It usually be helpful. But then even if you don't do anything else, at least you feel like, well, okay, at least I did that today. You know what I mean? That's the key part.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So every day you want to, I'm telling you, that's the most important thing, because like you said, a day can just go by like that. That day can turn into a week. That week can turn
Mm-hmm.
into a month. That month could turn into 2, 3 months. We don't know how long this
Yeah,
is all going to go. Right. So, uh,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
I'll,
Yes.
I'll be sharing stuff with this, because again, one thing I'm absolutely a master on is scheduling, because I've worked for myself. There's not too much different, to be honest, between quarantine and my normal life. I do a lot of work from home, so I've come up with a lot of strategies of how to work, on my own at my house without people and all the rest of it. But morning miracle routine, I will put that up tomorrow. I'll send out some reminders, and
Mm.
I might do, we got a group. It's kind of a Facebook group. It kind of got a little defunct, but maybe I'll pop in there more just so we can have some more, interactions and stuff just to become a source of structure as well for this year. Cool.
Yes.
All right.
Good.
Well, awesome, Wendy. I'm
Great.
glad you got on here, and I look forward to working with you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Jolene, I'm going to unmute you. Where are you at? Oh, wait a second. I don't know. There we go. All right. That's muted. Hey, Jolene, what's up?
Sorry, it's really dark in here. Sorry.
It is dark there.
So my situation's a little different. I am a teacher and still having to report to work.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to totally figure out how to teach my students without actually seeing them.
Right.
Remote, we have to do remote learning. So that's been kind of stressful. But the bigger thing is because I'm not going out and seeing my students, I go out to see them individually in their homes. I'm not moving as much at work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm finding myself sitting for a long period of time. And then my gym closed, and that was part of my morning routine.
Right.
So I'm struggling with coming up with a new morning routine.
Yep.
Without the gym. That will be beneficial for me. And I would like to add meditation in there, but I also need that physical activity. I have been trying to go out for walks every evening after work, which is helping immensely.
Good.
But I need that time in the morning to kind of regroup.
Yep.
So if you have any suggestions, and maybe your morning miracle thing will help too.
Yeah, no, it definitely will. Yeah, so the structure is the key thing here, okay? And so what you want to do, okay, so there's a phrase I like to use. I call it like a habit container, okay? And I think this is a helpful way to think of things because you already have a habit container. You in the morning usually go to the gym and work out, right? And so we want to recognize a lot of times we don't think of it as a habit container. We think of it as that's when I go to the gym, okay? But you always do it at the same time every day, okay? So we want to respect that time because you've got the neurology and you've got the associations to that time. You know what I mean? That it's like, okay, I do something here. So when I say it's a habit container is we always want to respect that and keep that going. It could be going for a walk. It could be riding a bike. It could be doing some yoga. It could literally be reading about exercising. Do you know what I mean? Like it could be anything that's about, you want to keep that time sacred because what's happened at that time? What are a couple of days? What has gone on with that time?
I've slept in.
Yeah. See what I mean? And so if the gym was open, you would have got up and you would have been there, right?
Yep.
So we got to be careful with that. That's what I'm trying to say. And I totally get it. But again, this is exactly what I was saying with my kids. I'm like, we're not doing that because it becomes, what happens is you start to sleep in and now you wake up later and now you stay up later. Now you sleep in more. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, it's 7 weeks later, the gym opens up again and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to go to the gym. I got to get up early. You know what I mean? We got to be careful of that because that's exactly what's going to happen. And so we want to keep that structure. You want to keep that early morning. I would keep that time right now because it's easy for you to get up there. It's nice to sleep in. On the weekends, sleep in. Is that what you normally do on the weekends?
Yes.
Yeah. You continue that. You know what I mean? It's like me, like I drink beer on Friday and Saturday night and Thursday night. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, I'll drink beer, not the other nights, right? Well, guess what? What was last night? Monday night? Oh man, I want a beer. Tuesday, oh God, I feel like drinking a beer because it's wearing on me. It's wearing on all of us. This is crazy times. It's like on one hand, we got to like deal with it. And we're just like, okay, it's not that bad. I'm gonna be all right. It's okay. It's all right. I'm okay. You know, we're saying ourselves all day long, but it's like, come on. I mean, this is real stuff, right? And so it's having an effect. And so, again, I'm okay with it. If I drank a beer, I'm okay with it, but I do not want to do that. I don't want to lose my structure. You know what I mean? So I'm very, very defensive of it. So what I'm trying to say to you is that the habit container starts with the time. Okay. And so it starts with Monday through Friday. I get up at whatever. What time do you usually get up?
5.
Yeah. Monday through Friday, I get up at 5. You know, if you want to I'll get up at 5:30. I'll tell you what I do. I get up at 5. I usually get up between 5 and 6 just naturally. But what I will do is if I'll get up and I'll meditate and I'll let myself go back to bed because I want to keep that structure so much. Because before I would meditate and then I would get the kids off to school. But now we could all just sleep in if we wanted to. but I don't want that Monday through Friday. Okay. So that'd be my first thing. Even if it's just you walking somewhere and then going back to bed is better. You understand? But then look for some options. You could go for a walk in the morning. It's too dark.
It's still dark.
Got you. Meditation.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's a special time to meditate. I'll tell you that. You know what I mean? Like it just is. You can do a couple stretches and meditate. You know, again, I'm going to put the Miracle Morning routine up. Okay. I'll put that up in the membership area tomorrow, and I'll put a reminder out. But again, it doesn't have to be as long as the gym. You know what I mean? But I would strongly suggest you do the same 5 o'clock. And, you know, if you want to do it till 5:30, that would be better than sleeping until what, 7, 8?
Oh, no, I have to be to work by 8. So I'm
okay.
only sleeping until 6, but.
Yeah. It just feels like crap though, doesn't it? Like when you skip that part now?
It does, because you're right. I'm staying up later at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's stupid. I'm sitting and watching TV.
Yeah. And again, don't beat yourself up about that, because we get stressed and we just revert back into, you know what I mean? We go on autopilot, you know, but that's why these calls are good, because it's like we, you know, people aren't doing it. They're going to lose their structure. They're going to lose their structure for 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks, however long this goes. And then they're going to have to struggle to get back on track with it, you know? And so again, let's be strong here. We don't have to be perfect. You understand, right? I'm not saying, oh, hey, you'll pick a different exercise thing. I'm saying make sure you get up at 5 and do something, whether that's just some simple stretches. Is there any stretches or exercises you do at your house? Have you done any of that?
That I can do, or that I do?
That you have done?
Not recently, but yes.
Okay. Like a workout video you could follow along to or something?
I don't have any of those, but I know a lot of gyms are putting videos and stuff on YouTube that you can follow. So,
do you do much yoga? What do you do at the gym? What's kind of like the typical exercise?
I'm doing cardio, either treadmill or some strength stuff.
Okay. All right. So look that up. That's kind of your goal here, right? You get up at 5 o'clock still. That you're still going to do that. You'll meditate, and then the other part becomes, again, this is the solution-oriented thinking. You don't have a solution right now. But you know what I mean? Like that's the work right now. I want to get up at 5. I'm going to meditate for a little bit, and I'm going to figure out some exercise I can do. You go on. Again, I got some yoga videos, but that might not be what you want. If you're doing some cardio stuff, doing some strength stuff, guarantee there's getting a laptop, YouTube. There's different stuff, you know, go watch those and do it at your house. Okay. Because again, think about this. You've got the habit container. You're used to working out between say 5 and 6, right? So that's still there in you. And so really what you're doing is you're just kind of tweaking a little bit. That's a lot easier than letting 8, 9 weeks go by and then trying to get yourself back to the gym. Yeah. But, you know, and it just, again, it becomes a downward spiral because you go to bed later, you're tired, you're grumpier, you're eating more. It's a whole downward spiral of crap, you know? And so structure is so important because it lets you know what's working and what's not. You're familiar with it. And so keep that time structure and then fill it in. And then check in me next week. If you have any questions, email me because I certainly have some solutions. But I don't think it'll take you too much to figure out, you know, a 10, 15, 20-minute workout that's low impact and where you want to be, okay, that you can do at home. All right? Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. So let's see. What's Wendy? Oh, you rather read that. Okay. So Pat says, I agree. Since our emotions follow our thoughts, we must decide how we want to feel. So I'm going to focus on how to make this fun. Yeah. Great. That's awesome. And there's a lot of stuff, you know, I got to say like online that, you know, people, I think there's some positive stuff. There's obviously always negative stuff too, but again, everything's relative. It's our paradigm, our reticular activation system filters our world. And so when we look for things that are fun, how can I make this more fun? Your brain starts to work to answer that question. Okay. It's a servo mechanism. And so start asking better questions. That's what being solution-oriented is all about. So that's a great point, Pat. Pat says, you know, this will be an experience we will be able to share with our grandkids in the years to come. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a challenge. And, you know, again, if you look over challenges through history, this is the challenge I would want. Like compare like world wars or, you know, your wars in general, famines, you know, getting kicked out of your where you live. This is the challenge that I would choose if you laid them all out in front of me. So definitely there's a lot of room to be grateful and a lot of room to Again, not trying to minimize it, but there's stuff we can do. So Jill says, funny how our minds can become like a runaway train, right? I have that disheveling feeling of losing all my income in my regular fitness classes. I totally agree about keeping a routine and not beating ourselves up. Definitely focusing on our immunity without workout daily. I turned on some wild music this morning and tore it up in my garage. It got a nice and sweaty. Definitely drinking lots of water, good water, and also getting all my getting off my own back. Great. And allow myself to feel weird and let it pass. More meditation, right? And also gratitude and lots of prayer and breathing for sure. Yeah. So here's what I'm trying to say with that. And like, I could almost do a whole separate thing on this because, you know, I think I know Jill's situation. And so I know Jill, you specifically, and there's other people like you. That's who I'm thinking of so much, because all of a sudden it's like your job just disappeared. And that is absolutely terrifying. And so you've got to manage that. And so you're doing everything seemingly, I think it sounds great. The other side is that now you have some extra time to do some things that you probably wanted to do. Okay. So it's about managing our mindset so that we can do those things. And so, again, I don't know anyone that is an entrepreneur here. That's actually another thing I do spend a lot of time working with. But I'm going to be setting up a Facebook group for solopreneurs, and it's basically peak performance. And right now, again, it's a free group. I'll send you info on it if you're interested. But it's all about managing your mindset so that you can get some things done here. Okay. Again, every challenge on the flip side is an opportunity. Okay. And so all of a sudden you have this focused amount of time, you have this forced hiatus where again, you're not making money. And so I know that's scary, but if you can manage the emotions of it, what you have is a lot of time to do some work. Okay. Now you're not gonna be able to work as effectively as you normally do, because there is a level of stress there that affects us, but you also have a lot more time. And so you can get some things done, okay, that you may not have otherwise been able to get done. And again, let's just, one thing that brings us peace is we're all kind of in the same boat here. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people being affected by this financially. And I like to be optimistic that things are going to work out. Okay. And so keep the faith here. I think what you're doing is the right thing. Yeah. Joe Deline says it sounds like you have a good handle. Yeah, it does. The structure is super important. Yeah. Pat says it sounds like everyone's come up with good ideas. It definitely sounds like that. So Jill says, my retired doctor psychiatrist says, when God's kids are stressed, God's kids regress. Yeah, that's a good one. And he's a recovering alcoholic of 28 years as well. So it's quite natural for us to stress and regress emotionally, but grab a hold of the runaway train. Yeah. Be intentional. Yeah. So again, it's that fine line of being intentional with ourselves, being solution oriented, but also easing off a little bit on ourselves. Okay. And recognizing that this is a challenging time. It's kind of like, and most of us aren't sick, you know, at this point, but it's like if you did get sick and all of a sudden you had to miss work, right? Because you felt sick, you wouldn't put all this pressure on yourself. Okay. And so this stress and uncertainty to a certain degree is like being sick, because it wears on us. It depletes us a little. And I don't mean to put negative suggestions in my mind, because I know some positive thinking people would cringe at what I'm saying, but it's like there is a reality too. And so I think there's a fine line with recognizing and accepting that there's a challenging situation here, and we're not going to operate at the same level we normally do. But at the same time, it doesn't mean we're going to give up either. We're not just going to totally check out until this is over. We can't let that happen. We're going to balance it right in the middle, and we're going to be intentional with ourselves. We're going to, support and cultivate our structures. And again, we're going to reduce to the ridiculous. Okay. So we can start small, but we just want to have something every day that we can point to and be happy with ourselves about. That's really where we want to start, and then let that grow into as much as we want it to be, because you're going to normalize to this. This is the very first week of it. Okay. So it's okay if you get thrown off track a little bit, but as long as you're managing some of the structure, by next week, it's going to start to feel more normal. The week after that, again, with your structures are going to start to feel more normal. I can tell you this because this is what I do. In a weird way, I've been quarantined for 10 years because I work my own schedule. And so I've had to navigate that. Again, it's a blank canvas at first. Okay. And that's what it feels overwhelming. And so it's natural again. Yeah. When was it? Yeah. When God's kids are stressed, God's kids regress. When we get stressed, we regress. And so when it's a blank canvas, we're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with my time and everything. We just want to check out. Don't let that happen. Okay. Because it's not a solution, and it makes things worse. Okay. So commit to the small things. And again, I want to be here for you. So I'm going to I'm going to work on opening some more lines of communication. Maybe the Facebook group's a way to do that, just so we'll have a kind of point of contact, because again, so much of it is just getting some reinforcement, because we're not getting a lot of reinforcement, right? The news is freaking us out constantly. And, and then work and stuff is kind of crazy. We can't see people. So I want this to be a source of, some support for you. So keep an eye on your inboxes. Like I said, I'll put some lessons up that I think are going to be really valuable. But the miracle morning is where I would start. I always like to start in the morning, because if you can change the morning, you, by definition, have changed the rest of the day. If you start your day with a half-hour routine that's healthy in the morning, your day is going to go in a different direction than if you sleep till 9 o'clock and it goes in another direction. So again, we can start small, but we want to start in the beginning, because the beginning changes everything that comes after it. Okay, so I hope that all helps you out. So, all right, you guys are awesome. And yeah, like I said, if you ever have any requests for like sessions or any struggles you're going through, feel free to shoot me a message, because again, I can make some lessons on them, and we can talk about that. But that being said, again, the perfect meal plan workshop that I've got ready to go, we'll get that out soon. And again, whether that'll be next Tuesday, I might just do it on a different time. I'll let you know. Yeah, just keep in contact. Keep strong, stay relaxed, get some sleep, drink water, do all the right stuff, and we'll talk to you next week. All right, everyone. Good night, everyone. Have an awesome week, and we'll talk next Tuesday. Good night.